No justice? No justice? No justice? What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? When do we want it? When do we want it? When do we want it? Hope the person next to you and let them know you're glad that they're still African after 400 years. Harold, I was thinking the same thing you were thinking. I was wondering how does a snitch, you know, when something like this happens, you get some understanding how a snitch feels when they're wired for sound. And unfortunately these days, there are a lot of us wearing wires. Unfortunately. I certainly want to thank the African Echoes for the invitation this evening to once again come before you and to share some information going and coming. It's always interesting, I say this, how black people operate on a higher plane, and they can just sort of feel things. Mental telepathy is one way of expressing it. And just a moment ago, I was in the back, and I know Mother Jackson didn't hear me, and I told one of the brothers, I said, I left my handkerchief at home. Get a handkerchief. And as soon as I said that, Mother Jackson, who was sitting in the back, about the 4th row, turned around and gave me these these paper handkerchiefs. So I'm really pleased at that. I remember a few weeks ago I was coming down with a cold, and I went to the theater that evening, and when I came home, there was a pot on the table, and I said, asked Leola, I said, where this pot comes from? And she said, Sister Khadijah Black. And I said, well, what is in it? And she said, some chicken soup. So I don't know how she knew that evening that I needed chicken soup, but she certainly made sure that I had it. So it just goes to show you that we have powers, real serious power that we are not using, that can really be to great advantage. And so in that way, when we operate on that level, see, wires don't mean anything. Because we don't have to say anything, it's just one mind to another. And so we have those powers, and we are in an age now where we certainly must utilize those powers. I was thinking about a lot of things, to think about. Sometimes you want to be current. And I raised the issue, especially in light of the 1997 mayoral primary, concerning the question of whether it is worth our effort as a people to vote during this current period of time. Now, that's really a hard question to raise, because I know that Fannie Lou Hamer is looking down on me today, and I know that Dr. King is looking down on me, and I know that Frederick Douglass and a number of other people who have struggled mightily for this right to vote, are looking down and possibly may be questioning what am I saying or what am I thinking to raise such an issue as to whether we should in fact be voting. In addition to that, just my own experience. During the 60s, I was heavily involved in voter registration and obtaining the right to vote in the South, and running black candidates in the South, and putting your life on the line in the South. So I come to you now with quite a bit of experience in struggling for the right to vote, and then in 1997 began to question whether black people should be participating in the electoral process at all, or under what circumstances should we be participating. And I say that because, since the Voting Rights Act of 1965, our condition has gotten worse in this country. Our communities are more devastated. Homelessness is on the rise. Hunger has become institutionalized in our way of life. More black men than ever are in prison. More black women than ever are in prison. The education system has thoroughly broken down in our communities, and so things have really gotten worse. On top of that, the only ones who have benefited in our community have been those Uncle Toms that have been with us since we've been over here. And what happened was, I used to say this somewhat jokingly, but I suppose it's becoming real. I used to always raise the question, if the vote meant anything, why did the white man give it to us? Knowing that he had never had a history of giving us anything with any value before. But I suppose when I was saying that, I was really saying it to get some laughter. But that has really turned out to be a real reality. And so as you look at the right to vote, the only people who are really encouraging us to vote are Uncle Toms. All of the traitors of the community today are encouraging us to vote because they have a vested interest in our voting. All right? And so the reason why our condition has gotten worse today, because we're a lot more divided today than we ever have been. And part of the division is because while we've always wanted to tell white folks what we were doing, or some of us have always wanted to tell white folks what we were doing, snitching and telling on each other and the whole 9 yards, what happened after 1965 was that snitching became a fundable item. Snitching became a fundable item. As we have elected more Negroes to political office, we have increased the number of snitches in our community. Because that is in essence what their job is to be plantation overseers and to make sure that we remain in check. And so as we get more Negroes in office, our condition gets even worse. All right? We got more Negroes in the city council in New York today than we had 10 years ago, and our condition is 10 times worse today. All right? Than it was 10 years ago. We got Negroes in various other positions. Our condition has gotten worse. I always say that every time that the president appoints a Negro to the cabinet, I get more nervous. They appointed Patricia Harris as head of housing, and we became homeless. They appointed Dr. Sullivan head of Health and Human Service, and we got AIDS. All right? And for a moment there, they had EPSI in agriculture. I was afraid we were getting ready to go hungry on a large scale. Until somehow or another they pulled him out of office. Now we got Herman in there as Secretary of Labor, and we are now struggling for our jobs. So as we put these Negroes in specific areas of government, we find that the conditions in those areas get worse and worse. And so the real question comes down to, and I suppose the Rothschilds stated this some 200 or so years ago, when they said that we don't care who make the laws. We don't care who make the law. We don't care who it is. As long as we control the money. We don't care who control the law, make the laws. as long as we control the money. All right, and now that is very deep. That's like me saying, I don't care who becomes the head of this hospital as long as I'm in control of the blood bank. All right? I don't care what hospital administrator, I don't care what doctor, I don't care what surgeon. As long as they let me stay in charge of the blood bank, I'm in charge of the hospital. Because sooner or later, somebody got to come through the blood bank in order to survive. And so we have to begin to look at voting from that particular premise. One of the reasons why I know that in America we will never be free, and some of you may be surprised, therefore the inference is if you'll never be free that you're still in bondage. I know it comes as a shock to some, but that is in fact our reality. One of the reasons why we will never be in America under the present legal format is the law itself. You see, it used to be a time we had the slave codes, then we had the black codes, now we have the Internal Revenue codes, we have the penal codes, and we have the municipal codes. So we still have the black codes and the slave codes under new names, all right? But they're doing the same kind of damage to us today as the original slave codes and black codes did before they were presumably wiped off the books. Now, the problem is that when anybody who went to law school, and honest with you, and most lawyers are not, know that the law was designed from the beginning to maintain the status quo. That's what lawyers are about. Whenever you go to a lawyer, the lawyer is not going to change your condition. Even Thurgood Marshall did not change your condition. All right? They were all part of a legal fraternity to service the rich and to maintain the status quo. Now, a lot of people got mad with Clarence Thomas, Clarence Thomas, as some like to refer to him. A lot of people got upset with him when, during the course of his Senate confirmation hearings, he was asked about his judicial philosophy. Now, see, to a lot of us, that don't mean anything, because a lot of us just don't have a belief system of our own. You see, so if you don't have a belief system of your own, then you already up for sale. All right? See, when you're dealing with people who have a belief system and have instilled that belief system in other people, all right, who will carry on that tradition, it doesn't make any difference who that person is. One of the things that was said in this book by the tribes, which is true, is that even when the English are no longer an economic power, or no longer a political power, the English will still control the world. Even when other forces come forward, the English will still control the world because the world is operating by English rules. See, if you go into the accounting profession, those rules were written by the English. All right, if you go in the legal profession, those rules are written by English lawyers. So wherever profession you go in today, all of the standards are English standards, and therefore they will continue to rule the world because the world will continue to embrace their way of thinking. And so when Clarence Thomas was before the U.S. Senate, and they asked him about his judicial philosophy, he said that I believe in a judicial philosophy of original intent. All right? I believe in philosophy of original intent. Now, a lot of people in our community obviously don't understand what he was saying. But every lawyer understood what he was saying because every lawyer has been taught to think the same way. All right? Every lawyer has been taught to think the same way. So they understood what he was saying, whether they wanted to concede that to you or not. Clarence Thomas, unfortunately, was one of those lawyers who was willing to use the tools of the oppressor to continue the oppression of his people. Because the law schools teach you very clearly that when you have a rule that has been enacted, it has to be according to the original intent of those rules. So when the U.S. Constitution was enacted in the first place, as Clarence Thomas was saying, I will construe it according to its original intent because, quote, my founding fathers, I don't know how the Negro could imagine that, but my founding fathers did not include people of African ancestry in the Constitution, which is the original intent. That's the original intent of the Constitution, to exclude, and therefore Clarence Thomas said, I will construe the Constitution that way, which is why when a case came up where a black man had been brutalized in prison, Clarence Thomas, in his vote, said, this is not a violation of the 8th Amendment. Beating this black man nearly to death is not cruel and unusual punishment. All right? He better be lucky that they didn't lynch him. All right? Because Clarence Thomas understood, as most whites understand, that that is the purpose. Now, Earl was talking about the Dred Scott decision, which I will not be discussing too much today, but it's always relevant because it's always in existence. And whatever I'm talking about, it serves as a foundation for that. But Judge Roger Taney, one of the first Catholic jurists on the Supreme Court bench, and therefore I suppose to show that he did not have an allegiance to the Pope, but to America, decided that he would be harsher than anyone else, which is the same thing that Clarence Thomas is trying to do. That's what happens a lot of times when you put somebody who's been oppressed in a decision-making position. They want to demonstrate to their masters that they can be just as hard or even harder than the master could be. All right, and so therefore, when you find the Clarence Thomases, the Taneys, these are people who have been part of a group that has been oppressed and rejected, and when given the opportunity to show their masters that they can be all right, they go overboard in attempting to demonstrate that. However, a few years ago, all of the leading law professors in this country were asked to name the 10 leading Supreme Court jurists of all times. And of the 10, Roger Taney was at the top. And we're not talking about law professors in 1960, 1920, 1875. We're talking about law professors in the 1990s. When given opportunity, said that this man was one of the greatest Supreme Court jurists of all times. And so when we look at the issue of original intent, well, it goes back to another thing that we all know and we don't practice. That's why I said a moment ago, I know that Fannie Lou Hamer is rolling over her grave as to what is happening today in this country with Negro hustlers. All right? Led by Jesse Louis James. All right? Led by Jesse Louis James. Oh, Jackson, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Somebody wanted to correct me, I'm sorry.
Jesse James.
Yeah, I was trying to say Jesse Jackson. But sometimes, you know, there's those Freudian slips. Right. So I want to make that correctly. But when you began to look at Jesse, there are two things that are very interesting, and then I'm going to go and give some historical background and pick this up later, which I think is important. Two things very interesting to me, I don't believe in coincidences. The first American ship that sailed directly from America to Africa to pick up enslaved Africans was named the Rainbow. Yeah. The first American ship that sailed from America directly to Africa to pick up enslaved Africans and bring them back was called the Rainbow. Now, well, maybe we said we'll dismiss that. All right, we'll dismiss that. All right. That was just coincidence. Even though I don't believe in coincidences, but you know what the heck. I mean, for the sake of unity, we'll dismiss that. All right? But when the America and the United Nations went into Somalia, it went into Somalia under the name of Operation Breadbasket. All right? All right? Operation Breadbasket. All right? Which is another country. But we'll get to Jesse later. We'll go back to something else now. I just want to throw that out there. We'll bring him back, give you food for thought. Now, when this country, from the first time that the English colonists came over to this country, there was a requirement of voting. And in order to vote, starting in 1619, when the first election took place under the English in Jamestown, Virginia, the requirement was that you had to own property. You see, land was the basis of your participation in voting. All right? If you did not own land, you could not participate. And this became important for all of the elections. Now, we know that our children are taught that George Washington is the father of the country. And he was the first president, but before that, he was the first commander-in-chief in the Army. Now, the question might be asked, well, why was George Washington made the general of the Army? Why was he in charge of the military? Well, some people might say, well, he was in charge of the military because he was a member of the Colonial Assembly, namely the Virginia House of Burgess. Some other people might say, well, he was the general, he was appointed general because he did participate in the military or the militia under the colonist rule. Then there are others who might say, well, you know, he was a Mason, and that was the reason why he was chosen to head the military. But the reason why George Washington was chosen to head the military was because he was the largest landowner in this country. Nobody else owned more land in this country at the time that he was appointed than George Washington. So therefore, he should be head of the Army. Am I right? If you own all the land, you ought to be in charge. All right? So he was appointed the commander-in-chief because he owned more land than anybody else. Now, what is interesting is that George Washington was known as the greatest land swindler in the world at that time. All right? He was a land fraud, a land cheat, and a land swindler. Now, it's interesting now that we allow these teachers to tell our children that George Washington never told a lie. When back then they were trying to figure out when did he ever tell the truth. But when you go to school today, one of the questions is, what president never told a lie? He told lies all the time. All right? But he was the first commander-in-chief, and then also the first president because he did own more land than anybody else. See, so that was arranged. He would be the first president because, you know, at that time, everybody couldn't vote. You know, you voted through your legislature because they had just simply an electoral college. So the electors met, and he got all 69 votes of those who cast their votes. That was the total number of votes that were needed in order to elect George Washington as the first president of the United States, 69. So this whole idea of land as the basis, which really then raises some serious questions about why we are participating in voting in the first place, since we own neither money nor land. And how we could be naive to believe that we're getting ready to politically empower ourselves, all right, when we have no wealth at all. I think over here in New Jersey, you have the freeholder system. And we have freeholders here, right? And freeholder type government. And freeholders means people who own land. That's what a freeholder means. A person who owns land. All right? So it's very interesting for us in New York, for example, to elect somebody like Dave Dinks who owns no land at all. I mean, how do you think somebody who owns no land, all right, can become mayor of the city of New York and change the social policy of the city? When wealth is the basis, all right, for that. Now, just a couple other things which are very interesting. Over the last few days, especially in the 1997 mayoral primary, you know, people said, well, gee, I didn't know that the police was involved in the vote count. You know, people said that. They said, I didn't know that, and then I went to the statues and pointed out the area and sent over to Imhotep, and I believe he may have mentioned it on the air, that the election law does require that all county have to go through the police. All right? And so a lot of people are very shocked about that. All right? That the police had that kind of power. However, if we had known our history, all right, if we had known our history, we would have known that the sheriff of every county was in charge of voting from the inception. All right? Everybody voted, turned over to the sheriff. He switched the votes, did what he wanted to do, and kept getting up. All right? And that's what happened. Now, I told this story before. I tell it again. I don't know if I said it here. I know a little bit about election fraud myself, since I participated at an early age myself. But I think that I will be forgiven for engaging in fraud myself, but I did. So I know how these things work. You see, when you have that kind of mind yourself, then you know how those kind of things work. You know, and it shows you how you have to operate in America. And I learned this in high school. You see, people who have to be recognized or have to be in the papers, have to be noticed, can never achieve anything. You see what I'm saying? See, power is not operate that way. People who have power are invisible. You never see them. You don't know who they are. You don't know where they are. They're invisible. And they're calling shots. The people that are always in front of the television can't bust a grape. All right? All right? All right, that's a reality. All right? They can't do it. Now, you can hallucinate and imagine that they're doing all these great things, but it's not happening. See, if you just hold back to your senses and think about it for a moment, you'll see it. It's not happening. All right? So I learned at an early age that in order to accomplish things that you want to accomplish, you have to be invisible. So I remember as we were finishing up our 11th grade year, and everybody knew that when we came back, homecoming was around October, so you had to have an early vote. You see, you had to have an early vote because you had to vote for your homecoming queen. But the politicking for that starts at the end of the junior year. You see, so in my junior year, the politicking started. And I like both candidates. In fact, I like the person I had to ultimately do in better than I like the person I ultimately had to help. Because the person I had to ultimately do in was somebody I had known all my life. They were very close to my family and the whole 9 yards. But the mind of our people then was so bad that I was forced to have to do what I had to do. So I had already decided that I could have run for president of student council myself. But you see, power is not in the person in the main office. See, that's not what power is, you see. So, you know, we got the whole thing, well, I want to be mayor, I want to be colonel. No, that's not what the power is. You see, it got somewhere lesser than that, somewhere where you don't know what's going on. So I said, well, first of all, I'm just going to run to become a member of the student council. All right? Everybody wanted me to be president. Some people want me to be president. I can't tell a lie, everybody. But some people want me to be president, but I said, no, I just want to be a student council representative. And the reason why I want to be a student council representative is because I have to do something, and I'm going to horse trade with the person that we're going to elect as the president of city council, president of student council, and let him know that if he becomes president of student council and I get elected to student council, I want to be in charge of the election committee. All right? That's all I want. I want to be in charge of the election committee. All right, that doesn't sound like much. All right, and they didn't think it was much. Okay? So, I positioned myself. This is a true story. And we came back to school. Now, the reason why I wanted to be head of the election committee was something that was said at the end of the school year that bothered me. And that was that a sister that was much darker than I am, who was very intelligent, very bright, and many people in the student body wanted her as the homecoming queen. When the teachers found out about this, they went nuts. They said, there's no way that somebody that black is going to represent our school and embarrass us in front of white people downtown. All right, because you got to remember, see, in my hometown, you know, on homecoming, they had the big parade and all of that. Yeah. And you had to march through downtown, so all the white folks would come out because, you know, we had great bands and all of that. We know how, you know. So they enjoyed seeing our school better than they enjoyed seeing their own. All right, you know, and I'm sure a lot of places were just like that as well. So they enjoyed seeing us. So the teachers had said, this other sister, who I knew and I loved, I had gone to school with her early in life. My mother and her mother were very good friends, and under other circumstances, I would have supported her. All right? But because of what they said, that bothered me. See, even from an early age, I've been conscious in that way. I heard Jill Nelson on radio, and I know some people have some problem with Jill, but she did do a fairly decent article. In fact, the only article I ever let anybody write was one that appeared in the Washington Post, a profile of me some years ago. And it was a fairly decent article. Regardless of what Jill does or says or whatever, she did write a decent article. And the Washington Post sent her to my hometown to talk to people, and they told her that what you are seeing now is what we saw then. All right, so anybody that, you know, go to my hometown will tell you that I was always involved. I was always challenging the power structure. It just didn't start in law school, college, or whatever. That was just me, even in high school. I can give you a whole lot of stories, you know, of our confrontation with white people and power structure even then. But that bothered me because, you know, I have never either elevated or deflated anybody in my race because of their appearance. All right? I have never done that. All right? And I couldn't see that happening either way. All right? It bothered me. And so all summer, that was my plan. What was I going to do? So I got the student body count, how many people normally come to school every day, and the whole bit, and I stuffed the ballot box. All right? I had my predetermined count. Now, this is the mayor ultimately won anyway. I don't know, but I was going to take the chance. All right? I was going to take the chance. So I got the box. I stuffed it. I went in the bathroom. That was a secret place for me to hide it. Then I went around all the classes, collected all of the ballots, went to the bathroom, switched boxes, got that box, took it up to the principal's office. Everybody was in there, and they counted. And the result, as I had predicted, even though quietly. All right? All right? That was what was going to happen. And it did. And, you know, we lived happily ever after. I was happy as a lark after that. All right? Because, you know, hey, you know, I mean, these teachers were people I didn't like anyway. All right? Because they also had said that there's no way in the world that Alton Maddox is going to make anything out of himself. And if he goes to Howard, he's going to be back after the semester because they'll be done kicked him out. So they all predicted I would never be anything in life. All right, so I was already, you know, upset anyway because that's what they said. I was going to never be anything in life. And the reason why they said I was never going to be anything in life because they thought I didn't like white people. All right? And if you don't like white people, you can't be anything in life. All right? So therefore, they had given up on me because they felt like my attitude toward white people were bad. And so therefore, you can't be anything in life if you don't like white people. All right? So as a result of that, I got my first experience in voter fraud. So I understand that. I understand how it happens. It happens every time, which is the problem that we're into as a people. All right, as a people. I can remember the time in the latter part of the 60s that we ran for the first time in Talbot County, Georgia. Talbot is the county seat. I was pushing all the black candidates. Talbot County has the second highest percentage of blacks in the state of Georgia at that time, had the second highest percentage, only to Washington County, where Honorable Elijah Muhammad is from. All right? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad is from Washington County, which is a very black county. Now, it's very interesting when you start studying these things about, and I won't get into this, but if you go back and study Washington County in the 1890s in Georgia, what you will find is that they had a strong sense of economics in the 1880s and 1890s. They had their own farm co-op in Washington County, Georgia. The blacks raised their products, controlled the market, controlled the selling of the products, controlled the price, all right? So when you read about what was going on in Washington County, Georgia, it's not too hard to imagine how the Honorable Elijah Muhammad came out the way he did. You see, by going back and actually studying these histories, which is a many times we do not do, and we don't know really what formed people. You see, we are a product of our environment, all right? And if things are happening in our environment, if black people are seeking self-determination and economic self-sufficiency, then it has an impact on even the children who may not yet be old enough to make those kind of decisions themselves. You see, this is why what we do will have an impact on what our children do. And if we're not doing anything, our children are not going to do anything because they learn by imitation. So if there's nothing to imitate, then they're going to end up being nothing. You see, that's the reason why we hold a great responsibility in terms of how we project ourselves and the kind of institution that we try to develop so that that instills that in them that they will even expand and grow larger. And so when you go back and look at that, then you begin to realize that situation. But I remember in Talbot County, Georgia, where we were running candidates the first time ever since Reconstruction. Now, it's very interesting about Talbot County, Georgia, because I was reading a book on Jews, and this book said, I didn't know this recently, that the Macy family, the family owned the Macy's, started out in Talbot County, Georgia. Then went to Columbus, Georgia, which is only about 20-some miles away, after they made that money in Talbot County, Georgia, and then it came to New York, which means that the foundation for Macy's is on the backs of black folks. Because we were the only thing in Talbot County, Georgia. All right? So that's what it means. If you go back and trace that, you know, it means that because of what we were doing in a small town that elevated this group of people to move on to Columbus and then to New York and form Macy's in New York City. So that's the county that we were in at that particular time because it was part of the Black Belt. Because, see, I had this dream. This is why I say I'm involved in politics. I had this dream, one, of never leaving the state of Georgia after I went back. That's why I tried to finish school at the University of Georgia, but I was told to leave, and under circumstances which were beyond my control, I had to. All right? And that was back in the 60s as well. But my intention was to stay in Georgia and do my thing in Georgia. All right? But at the last minute, the dean of the law school said that I was a disgrace to the Negro race. All right? And I would never make nothing out of myself. All right? So therefore, I was asked to leave. And I tried to stay, but I realized through some spying that my grade had already been predetermined. All right? Which meant that if I had stayed, you wouldn't have been seeing me here at least practicing law in New York. So I had to boogie out of there real fast. But, you know, that was in the 60s when white folks really were not accustomed to dealing with us at all. All right? You know, that's the bottom line. And especially me. I was not the first black there. I was the third. But I was the first black there that wore dashiki, had a big afro, which caused some real problems to white folks who hadn't even gotten over just seeing us there. All right? All right? Here comes somebody in a dashiki and a big afro and talking about black power. You know what I mean? So that was a real shock. You know what I mean? That was a real shock. But that was my, well, I won't go into that. That's another story, you know. that we could talk about for quite some time. But I will say, only to say that in Talbot County, right before the vote count, the blacks in town who had stood very strongly that day, and the black community came out in groves to vote. You see, and this is why I understand about the sacrifice our people made, because you had white women up there on the courthouse square watching for their cooks and their maids to come out. And as they came out of the voting booth, they said, Mary, if these niggas win tonight, you better not come to work on Monday. All right? So they were ready to fire everybody in town. All right, at least they threatened to fire everybody in town. Because I don't think they could, but that was their threat. They were fire everybody in town. Well, we were pretty strong up to then. And we had a right to be poll watchers. I had a right to be a poll watcher for some of the candidates, and we'd already planned I was going to go in there and watch the vote and the whole bit. And then, right before we got ready to go in there, they came to me and said, Brother Maddox, we have withdrawn your name as one of the poll watchers. And I said, what, is anything wrong, brothers? They said, well, we just think that we got a good sense of racial harmony now. We think the white folks are really getting ready to do the right thing. We've had some discussions today with them, and we feel like your being present might disturb the kind of harmony that we're getting ready to enjoy in Talbot County. All right, so I said, well, you know, if that's what you want, you know, so be it. Well, after that, the Klan came by and told me that I would be leaving Talbot County, but I would be leaving in a pine box. All right, so at that point, I was also concerned about getting out of Talbot County, which I was able to do with a group that was pretty much parallel to Deacons for Defense. I won't go into that. But the 4 black candidates lost by between 1 to 4 votes. All right? Between 1 vote, 2 votes, 3 votes, 4 votes. All right? That was how they ended up, but they all lost. All right? They all lost. And so I say that because as we saw that then, we still see that today. You see, as we saw it then, we still see that today. All right? Now, one of the interesting things about voting originally was the land was so important here that wherever you own land, you could vote. So if you own land in Newark, you could vote. If you own land in Trenton, you could vote. You own land in Philadelphia, you could vote. You own land in New York, you could vote. Wherever you own land, you could vote. So that becomes the foundation for what we're really going to get into, to appreciate that the more things seem to change, the more they remain the same. All right? Now, there's one other thing that's very interesting in the 1997 mayoral candidacy in New York, and that is that you remember it was this large absentee ballot vote that came in that was supposed to change the equation. Well, the interesting thing about it is that the absentee ballot in America arose from fear of blacks and Native Americans. All right? That's how the absentee ballot developed in the first place, because there was a fear from plantation landowners that if they went into town to vote, the enslaved Africans would rebel and leave the plantation while they were down there voting. All right? And so as a result of that, they first developed a vote by proxy. All right? Because apparently some of us were leaving. All right? We figured out, oh, they get ready to vote today. Boogity, boogity, boo. All right? So they realized that every time they had a vote, they would go downtown and get drunk, all right, in the whole 9 yards, because you see, voting then was a big ritual. I mean, in 1858, George Washington ran. He didn't campaign, but he left behind enough money to buy about 60 gallons of moonshine and various other drinks. And everybody would get drunk and go into the ballot box. So everybody would be drunk on these days. So the absentee ballot developed because of the fear of enslaved Africans. So it was very interesting that it was this vote that came in just recently, you see, to do Reverend Sharpton in, in that candidacy. But those are the kind of things that we really want to set in terms of a background. Now, the problem with voting is that black people are only able to vote for the lesser of the chosen evils. All right, see, they're not just the lesser of the evils. They are the lesser of the chosen evils. All right? See, they're the lesser of the chosen evils. And see, what happened is that the political party primaries are really auditions, all right, to see who can out-whore the other person. Out-whore. All right, W-H-O-R-E. All right? All right? That's what the primaries are for. All right? And whoever can do that better than the other, whoever can show them, if they're men, they're wearing pink underwear, then that's fine. If they got a garter belt under there, all right, that helps. All right? But whoever can out-whore the next person gets on the ballot. And you think about it. And you never get a chance to vote for your choice. All right? You never get a chance to vote for your choice. Every time you go to the ballot, there's always a suspect on the ballot. All right? Somebody you don't trust is on the ballot. Because in this country, this country will not allow you to get your candidate on the ballot in the first place. And if your candidate gets on the ballot, they're going to manipulate the election machine so that they lose anyway. All right? Now, this is no secret because right after Reconstruction in the South, blacks could not participate in the primaries. And they would call them the white primaries. All right? Because the primary is the most important aspect of voting. I remember when we ran the Freedom Party in 1994. And while the Freedom Party was in state court, I went up to federal court. And when I got up there, the Libertarian Party was trying to get on the ballot. Now, the Libertarian Party did not produce the requisite minimum 15,000 votes to even be considered. But they were trying to find a way to put them on the ballot. Now, the Freedom Party had produced 18,000 signatures, so we were over the minimum, and we at least should have been considered, but we was in the wrong venue, in the wrong jurisdiction, unfortunately. But I remember as I was up in federal court listening to the white folks, because what happened was they didn't have their case in the courtroom. They had their case in the judge's chambers. All right? With the idea that if some black person came, then see somebody in the courtroom, they wouldn't have the audacity to go bust up the judge's chambers, which is exactly what I did. All right? I went and sat in on the Libertarian Party. Now, what I found out, this is what was most revealing. In New York, there's a multitude of political parties. All right? And these are all official parties. You see, New York has the best laws in the country for third parties. All right, better than anybody else. So you have a multitude of political parties in New York, in addition to Democrats and Republicans. You have the conservative, the liberal, the right to life, now the Freedom Party, the Independence Party, down the line. All these parties are officially recognized parties. Well, what I came to find out is that in the whole history of the electoral process in New York, the only two times that a political party has never been given the right to put its choice on the ballot was when G2E attempted to run on the Unity Party, and Joseph Mack ran on the United African Party, I believe. All right? Am I right? All right? All right. Those were the only two times in the history of New York. So in other words, whether whites got the number of signatures or not, they were always allowed on by consensus. But the only 2 times in the history of the whole state when blacks have not been able to put their candidate on the ballot, it was when 2 blacks sought the opportunity to do it, and then with us it became the 3rd time because we were trying to put Colin Moore on the ballot. All right? So what that shows you is that America, while it will allow us to vote in the general election, it will not allow us to participate in the primaries, and therefore we are still involved in white primaries today. All right? That's what that basically demonstrates. Now, a lot of people in New York are a little bit concerned with Ed Towns, a little bit concerned with Floyd Flake for endorsing Giuliani. And people are talking about they're going to take some action against them. Well, let me first of all say that everybody in New York is on the same team. All right? Everybody's on the same team. All right? There's nobody who's getting ready to get anybody else, because they're all in agreement with each other. There's a major conspiracy going on in New York. All right, let's understand that. There's a major conspiracy going on in New York. Now, when Dave Dinkins ran for mayor, despite the fact that this man never done anything for black folks, if I would ask you, of the 3 mayors, Dinkins, Lindsay, and Koch, which one of the 3 never went to the South in the 60s to march against Jim Crow? It would be Dinkins. Koch went down and marched. All right? Lindsay went down and marched. All right? But Dave didn't. All right? Dave Dinkins did not. All right? Now, when Dave got ready to run and about the time of the election, I said something that a lot of people got mad with me and still are mad. And that is that electing Dave is electing Koch in blackface. I said that, everybody went nuts. Man, what's wrong with this Negro? Well, they couldn't call me a Tom. All right? All right? But they could say I was crazy. All right? But they couldn't call me a Tom. But I said, no, this is Koch in blackface. Now, this is how politics works. We have to be very much aware of this, especially since we are unorganized people. See, the real tragedy of us is we're trying to involve ourselves in an organized activity, and we are unorganized. All right? That's like trying to beat organized crime. All right? When you're unorganized. See, we don't work closely together. You know, we may come together for a season, all right, without a reason, but that's about it. All right? So we're unorganized. Now, what is the common thread between Dinkins, Flake, and Ed Towns? The common thread is the U.S. Attorney's Office. The common thread is the U.S. Attorney's Office. No, listen. Now, let's not jump to any conclusion yet. All right? Let's not jump to any conclusions. When Dave went in office, and as soon as he got in there, the first thing they did was drop the possibility that he had an illegal stock transfer. Y'all remember that? Now, it would seem like that the U.S. Attorney's Office, if anybody had jurisdiction over that matter, would have been the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District, which is Manhattan.
That's more.
Or no, that was the U.S. Attorney at that time. All right? Giuliani group. But what they did, instead of dealing with Giuliani and them, they put Maloney on it. Maloney is the federal prosecutor in Brooklyn. All right, so he was investigating. Maloney had been appointed by Alphonse D'Amato, who was a close friend of Ed Koch. And they had Dinkins on the hot seat. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Which is why when Dave got in office, he had to elevate Koch's trash commissioner as first deputy mayor, and that was Norman Sticer. Because, see, Koch still controlled the city. See, what we weren't looking at for. We were somewhere jumping up, hollering, run, Dave, run. All right? And we weren't looking into the machinations of politics. You understand? Machiavellian is the rule. All right? He's the father of Western political science. See, so we're not talking about politics, we're talking about politics. See, if you understand politics, you have no business in politics. Because it is not politics, it's politics. Everything that you see is a trick. So, Maloney had to stop transfer over Dave until the end, until Dave said, let me out of this. I don't care whether I win or not. Y'all write up the final vote results any way y'all want. Let me out of here. All right? He said, I don't want no recount. I don't want nothing. I done sweated for 4 years. I want out of here. You understand what I'm saying? Because they had to squeeze on Dave and his son. All right? So Alphonse D'Amato was able to control with Koch what was going on in the city. They wasn't paying no attention to y'all. All right? When Koch wrote an article in the paper and told Dave that he better get out to the Korean boycott in Flatbush, y'all remember that? All right? As soon as he read the paper, he said, give me my chauffeur and get me out to Flatbush. Am I lying? All right? He went straight out there. All right? As soon as Koch wrote the article, said, get your butt out there, he was in a car flying out to Flatbush. And then came back and passed a law making it illegal to boycott against Koreans. All right? All right? That's what he did. Okay? He passed a law when he came back saying it's illegal. Then he passed another law saying it was illegal for the Haitians to operate the vans. And not only can you not operate the van, but he gave the police the power to confiscate the vans.
Midnight on the last day of his life.
All right? That's Dave Dinkins. Then he also went to Albany and borrowed $4 billion to hire 5,000 thugs to patrol the streets in the black community. All right? That's what he did. All right? Because they had a squeeze on it. Now, at the same time, Fred was under indictment. All right. All right? All right, well, under indictment by, of all people, St. Maloney, who had been appointed by D'Amato. All right? And D'Amato also had appointed Giuliani. All right, to boot. Now, the reason why Giuliani said he fell out with D'Amato is because D'Amato, according to Giuliani, wanted to make Giuliani a mob U.S. attorney. All right? Because, you see, that's the reason why they put Gotti under the prison when he killed Big Paul Castellano. He made a tragic mistake. All right? Yeah, because D'Amato had already whispered to Giuliani to go soft on Big Paul. All right? After he had also told him to go soft on Vincent Gigante. And Mario Gigante, at that point in time, who was another mob boss. All right? All of this under the D'Amato belt. Now, believe me, during that same time, they had already scraped up stuff on towns. All right? So, this time around, Flake owes everything to D'Amato. All right? Towns owe everything to D'Amato. All right? For not doing push-ups behind bars themselves. All right? You see, this is what we're talking about, how the game of politics is operating. You see, there is a permanent government that operates. Yes. All right? And whatever you do, and I say this all the time, people say, well, Maddox, why don't you run for office? I said, I know too much to run for office. You understand? I would run for office only on one condition, that black men form an army to go in there with me. All right? All right? Because, brother, if you don't have an army to go into politics, you ain't going to do nothing. All right? You ain't going to, you playing with yourself. You don't have no idea what politics is about if you don't have an army to go in there with you. All right? And I'm not talking about some little ragtag army. All right? I'm talking about brothers and sisters who are serious and who are sharp and who are disciplined and who are committed. All right? Because if you don't have that, it's too many forces out here that will go after you. All right? As we sit here today, after having put Marion Barry in jail, all right? He came out and ran again, and now they have taken over his government. Yeah. Only thing Marion Barry can do now is go by the secretary and pick up his check. He can't sign one contract. He can't appoint nobody to nothing. All right? And he's lucky that he's not dead because that's what happened to Harold Washington. All right? Now, what does this all mean? I'll tell you what it all means so we can get beyond this. I said this some time ago, and I'm convinced after 1997 that this is true. Black people who are in public life or public office have no desire to win. That's true. They only want to be seen. You understand that? All right? They have no desire to win. Now, I'm going to tell you why I know that. Because there are a lot of people out here who want to be seen. And they are seen. And a lot of people have been around me who've been seen. But the one thing I always noticed was that as we were about to go across the finish line, I would always catch them trying to throw a knife in my back. All right? They could do everything but get across that finish line first. That's a reality. Now, sometimes we made it cross, but there was a couple scars in my back. All right? Because of the commitment. Now, people take vows today for things that they tried to prevent. That's what you got to understand. Yes, they were there. They made a lot of noise. They were seen. But when they realized that we could win, they backed up. Yeah, that's right. They did a moonwalk. All right? All right? That's reality. We have a fear of winning. We have a fear of winning, starting with Jesse Jackson. All right? This Negro ran and got to the finish line and dropped on his knees and apologized. And let the white man run past him. All right, that's what he did. He's afraid to win. And so what we have now is a bunch of Jesse Jackson clones who are carrying out the same kind of operation. All right? All right? They are showing up, they are hustling, they are making all the moves, but then they fall and take a dive. All right? They fall and take a dive. Just like people saying now. See, we get caught up on emotion. I'm sure how we are. We have to brace ourselves. Because, see, people know how to exploit us. Now, as soon as Towns and Flake came out and said they were for June, everybody got mad. Oh, well, they were burning up the LID and everything that they could their hands on. Sell out. We got to get them. We got to do the whole thing. But all these Negroes working together. All right? They were all working together. Tag team match. All right? Now, they said, well, we're going to get Flake and we're going to get Towns. Well, let me tell you what's going to happen. So y'all know it now. They're going to mess up. No. They're going to act like, with Flake, first of all, Flake said he's resigned. So you can't get him if he's true to his word. Yeah. Am I right? So you can't get Flake. Because Flake already said, I'm resigning. So you can't get him. the interesting thing, though, is that Flake, by not having a child of his own, was sent to the throne. Because see, now in the Negro community, it ain't about the community anymore, it's about the family. Right. You understand? See, every time somebody runs, when they get too old or they get 10 years in, then they got a son that they bring up. Hal Ford did in Tennessee, Jesse Jackson, he got his son in. Patterson got his son in. All right, Town got his son in. All right, so that's the new hustle all over the country. All right, building these little fiefdoms throughout the ghetto. All right, that's the new hustle that's going on in the community. Now, it's interesting. What they don't tell you about Flake is that Flake has said, I want meat to replace me. That's what he said, right? Well, the Negroes who said they're going to get Flake also want meat to replace them. Huh? You understand what I'm saying? All right? But we don't, so we doing a trick back. Now, let's get the towns. Now, I know some of y'all know that little running battle between me and somebody else, but it ain't nothing personal as far as I'm concerned, but, you know, so be it. I just do what I have to do. I have to say what I have to say, and I do that, and I make no apology. Whether people like me or not, I don't care. All right? I want everybody to understand that. I don't care whether people like me or not. All right? I mean, I really don't. I'm one of those persons who really feel very comfortable. Nobody calls me, nobody bothers me, nobody want to be with me. That's all fine. All right? I don't care. All right? But last year, I warned the community that we were getting ready to lose drive time dialogue. All right? That's what I said. And I wrote over 300-some preachers and told them that they were going to lose their spots. All right? I did that. All right? After I had gone to Washington and did my research. All right? See, so we're not talking about somebody just hollering off at hot air. All right? Sometimes people may not like what I have to say, but I would debate anybody. All right? All right? If anybody don't like what I said, I come back next Sunday and debate them. All right? You give them the tape, I'll be back here and meet them face up. Anybody you think I'm talking about, you invite me, I guarantee they won't show up. All right? That's one thing I can guarantee you. They won't show up. All right? They will not show up. Now, when I went to Washington and poured the file, what I noticed is that the mob has moved into RL. Yeah, the mob is moving to RL. Yeah, the mob. The guys that own the stations up in Connecticut and Sag Harbor, the two stations that they bought, and they also bought a station out here in Plainfield. They bought 3 stations, 2 stations up there in Sag Harbor, New York, and in Waterbury, Connecticut, were owned by men who had looted the S&Ls. Oh, yeah. All right? And they're named in the vow. All right. Now, what I knew then is, and I don't know a whole lot about music. I know a little bit. You know, I'm trying to learn some. Sister Mason out there knows quite a bit. I listen to everybody out here. All right. But I did know that if the mob was getting ready to buy it, they didn't need gospel on radio. All right. I at least knew that. All right. I knew they wasn't selling gospel. All right? I knew they had some old records that they wanted to put back on the market. And they needed an outlet in order to do it, which meant all the preachers had to come off the station. All right? Now, Bob got upset with me. And many of y'all know. All right? A year ago, he got upset, told me I couldn't come on radio no more, the whole 9 yards. And I said, if you are a true activist, you tell people the truth. That's right. All right? If you're for real, you'll tell the people the truth. You're a vice president over there. You know more than I do. Bob Law, L-A-W. All right, he used to rise at the midnight hour. All right? So I said, that's what you would do. You would tell the people. All right? I have an obligation to tell the people. All right? Myself. I mean, you know, whether people want to listen to me or not, no, I'm not a leader. I'm not this and that. But if I know something, I got to warn the people. All right? Now, maybe the people may do me like they did Noah. Laugh me down the street. All right? But I still got to give them the message. All right? And that's what I did. A year later, it's gone. Just like I said then. And could get nobody to listen. All right? And we could have made a move then. Could have stopped this, but we didn't do that. All right? Now, it was very interesting. I say that to say this. When Charles Barron announced he was going to run against Priscilla Wooten, for whatever reason, because I don't have no relationship with Priscilla Wooten. I mean, you sure, like everybody else, she knows me. I'm sure like everybody else, she knows I have a relationship with Reverend Sharpton. I'm sure that she knows I used to ran his 92 campaign, all of that, all right, and the whole bit. And some people have that associations when it may not be as close as they think, all right, but they still have that, all right. So she called me and said, I want you to give a message to Al. And I said, well, you know, Councilman Wooten, I don't think I'm going to see Reverend Sharpton. And, you know, I wouldn't want to be the bearer of any messages. And I probably won't be seeing him. She said, well, I want you to tell him that anyway. You know, Priscilla Wooten, one of them loudmouth, foul people. I want you to tell him anyway. You tell that nigga that I'm going to whoop Charles Barron. And she didn't say this. Blink, blink, blink. He's behind. All right, aspirin. All right, all over Brooklyn. And this is what Priscilla Wooten said. She said, and you tell them that I'm not Ed Towns, and I'm not going to allow them to shake me down. All right? That's what she said. Now, I won't fill in the blanks. You can figure that out for yourself. I will only say this. What she's referring to is the fact that, and this happens not only with Towns, but it's also happened with Rainbow. When they feel like they're going to have a hot race, or they feel like somebody heavy is breathing down their throat, they create a candidate to run against them. All right. All right? And pay the candidate to run against them so that nobody else will run. That's what they do. All right? Because you would then say, well, man, why are you running? You know the brothers trying to unseat Towns. Why would you be running? So everybody else get back. And then the candidate that they inflated take a dive at the Board of Elections when it's too late for anybody else to run. You understand what I'm saying? All right? So all of this talk about we getting ready to get Towns and we getting ready to get Blake is a bunch of crap. All right? They ain't getting ready to get nobody. All right? And our community got to wake up and see it. See, what you got to realize is this. There are a lot of people who now have to elevate certain people in our community. Because the people, there are people in our community that are being sponsored by the Rockefellers, all right? And they have all these things at their disposal. They got Howard Rubenstein at their disposal, all right? So he can get them on any TV program, any radio program, and the whole 9 yards. See, this is a whole business, all right, to keep us confused, all right, in terms of our communities. But none of this has anything to do with us. Now, I said before this primary, I said on August 20th to the group publicly, I said that there's no way that Reverend Sharpton could lose the mayoral primary. Right. And that's not. All right, I want you to understand that. I am lesser known than Reverend Sharpton in New York, and I could have beat Bruce Messenger. All right? All right, Roger Green, who put his name on the ballot, and then the next day changed his mind and said, I'm off the ballot, and never campaigned and got over 6,000 votes. All right? Now, what that tells you is the strength of the black vote in New York. That's what it tells you, the strength of the black vote in New York. And nobody at this point can outdo the black community in New York because the Jews and the Catholics have left town. And the foreigners can't vote. That's what they ain't telling y'all. See, they got y'all believing, well, you know, it's 8 million people here, y'all only 25% of the population. But you ain't 25% of those who can vote. You are much more than all those who can vote. See, the issue is not whether you're 25% of 8 million. The issue is how many of that 8 million can vote.
Teacher.
All right? And when you got the Koreans and the Asians, all these groups who have no interest in voting. And no interest in voting. Most of them don't even waste time voting. Or waste time using money for voting. Because they don't want to be involved with the white man other than get hold of his money. All right? You ain't never heard an Asian walking down the street talking about we should overcome. And their oppression in this country has been just as brutal as ours. All right? And it would be more so if they went out of their neighborhoods. The only reason why they ain't vamped on in Bensonhurst and Howard because they don't go out there. They get in their little neighborhood, they never leave. Period. All right, except to come over there and get out and, you know, everybody do that. That's what you call free trade. All right? Yeah, everybody does that. All right? Is to get involved. So when we talk about politics, there's no way that anybody can lose a Democratic primary, which is why Ruth Messenger never attacked it sharply, because she understands that if she antagonizes the black vote, she's through. Even though she needs the black vote. And she's not doing a great job trying to embrace us because she's too racist for that. You understand that? She's too racist for that. So she's not doing a good job of luring us into her fold. But she understands the power of the black vote. Okay? She understands that. Now, there was a couple of observations I made on August 20th. I said on August 20th that the Giuliani administration or regime saw the UAM case as a godsend. All right? Giuliani was as happy as a little boy in the boys' town. Or a faggot in boys' town. All right? Okay? Yeah. Yeah. All right, let's get back on the subject. All right. All right. He was that happy when that came down the pipe because Giuliani had already predicted through his strategies that he was going to have to face Sharpton in the general election. And he knew by reading the Art of War and everything else that they can get over that the enemy attacks you at your Achilles heel or your weakest point. And his weakest point was police brutality. And the UAM case gave him an opportunity to clean up his act to as much as he could. You understand? So it was a godsend. So in other words, we got ready to debate Sharpton, in which Sharpton should have demolished him because he certainly had the capability to demolish Giuliani. You see, it would have been all over because, you know, my strategy, which obviously had not been followed, but I had earlier tried to strategize for the mayoral candidacy. And the idea was, I knew we would get past the primary. And I knew that in the debate, that Giuliani was going to jump up at some point and use the N-word. All right? I knew that. All right? He could not restrain himself. I had done a psychological profile of Giuliani. I know him. All right? He cannot restrain himself. All right? At some point in that debate, he would have jumped up and called the N-word. And that would be the end of the whole thing. All right? It would have been all over. It would have been too late for them to get anybody else in there to replace him. It would have been all over. All right? Now that was going to happen. That's all we had to do was get past the primary, and that was what's going to happen. Now, the reason I'm telling you why, I already knew what the strength was. I didn't get past the primary. But Sister Karen Mason listened to the conversation that I was having, brought something else to my attention, which was deep, which only confirmed the original premise. Now, I want everybody to think. Right after the primary, Judah Ann came out with an ad, which was really a shopping ad, because it had Priscilla Wooten and this guy Charlie Hughes of this union, all right, endorsing Judah Ann. Now that was a shopping ad. You understand that? Now that ad started around the time, right after the primary, because Judah Ann's strategists, see, they had already done this ad. See, they don't wait till the last minute. See, they already did this ad. They already knew that Sharpton was going to be the winner, which is why Judah Ann was not the one that did Sharpton in at the Board of Elections. All right. Let's be very clear. I don't care what Sharpton said, I don't care what Jesse said, I don't care what any of them says. All right? I'm telling you, it wasn't Judah Ann that did him in, because their campaign was preparing for Sharpton. All right? However, that ad ran until such time that it became clear that the Board of Elections was getting ready to change the results. All right. Okay. And you haven't seen that ad no more, have you? No. What he did, he replaced that ad, the campaign replaced that ad with messenger sex shop. Am I right? All right? They replaced it with messenger sex shop, but they never thought they were going to be messenger that was going to have to face Judah Ann. And the only thing you got to do is watch what was happening. All right, that's what was happening. Because Judah Ann knew, like I know, and like anybody else who's thinking, that this city should be governed by black people at this point if we had our heads screwed on right. Right. And so after then, you see, things that I said, look, don't go in the federal court and don't go in the state court. Y'all heard me say that? Yeah. You said that already. All right? I said, don't go into no courthouse. All right? You see, when you are balloting crackers, you have to choose your terrain. You understand what I'm saying? See, if you read our ward, it says that right there. You got to choose your terrain. You got to choose a terrain that is favorable to you. All right? We're talking about being a general now. All right? See, what the problem in our community, we don't have no generals in our community. All right? We don't have people who can see the big picture, know how to think, know how to strategize, know where to hit the enemy, and know when to back up. We just got a bunch of Negroes who go on some nursery rhymes and run those on us. All right? And that's what's going on in our community. So I said, don't go into no court. Don't go in the federal court, don't go in the state court. Go in the court of public opinion. That's where you stay. You have to go in the court of law, go in the court of public opinion. If all of these people had to at least act like they were sympathetic to you, then why go into a court where the law is going to prevail? Go into their minds. Go into their hearts. All right? If they had told you that this whole system is wrong, why would you go in the law where it's stacked up against you? All right? You got to know when to go into court and when not to. And so what is happening here is that the generals, people who understand that we are at war and how to manipulate a war, are not present in our community. We don't have any generals. We don't have no 5-star generals, 4-star, 3, 2, or 1. All right? That's a serious problem in our community. So the problem is the will to win. And this is what happened. Everybody at the end punked out. That's what happened. It's called what it's worth. We got to move on. you know, we hope that people have the strength. But what has happened, and our people got to understand this, and I say this all the time. I have been with every leader, or so-called leader in America. All right? I've been there with them. I know how they think. I've heard them think. I've heard them talk. I know the whole 9 yards. They don't have any confidence in you. They don't have any confidence. All right? They have decided that you cannot be depended on, and therefore they may well use you. All right? That's what they decided, that they may well use you. See, they decided that what they can do is to run for these offices that you really want some black person in, because they know how you get emotionally charged. All right? So when you got a Giuliani or you got a Rizzo or any of these races, do we know that you want somebody to run against them? Their thing is to run, raise as much money as they can, and you know y'all don't give money check, y'all give it on the table, which makes it easier. You understand? So they ain't got to report that at all, because y'all don't write checks. You know, y'all drop up there and drop $1,000 in the basket, and they run home and dig a hole and bury that money. All right? When you don't write no check, Doc, they put that money in the hole. Only thing you got to do is follow them home. And watch them put that shovel out and go to work. All right? That's what they do. And it is a profitable business. You understand what I'm saying? It is a profitable business. You can make millions of dollars in one shot. Look at Jesse Jackson. All right? Now, check this out. Jesse Jackson's son, Jesse Jr., was a professional student. Professional student. He went from one school to the next. And then, when Reynolds ran on hard times, whether it was Jesse inspired or not, I won't get into that yet. I won't get into that tonight anyway. What happened to Mel Reynolds and his demise, who was really behind it, which is another story. All right? But at that point, Jesse put his son out there. When his son had the financial disclose, he was nearly a millionaire. That's what happened. And he never had a job. All right? Let's go check out their statements. All right? He was nearly a millionaire, and the only thing he ever been in was law school, theology school, and every other school they would let him in. All right, so this is what we are talking about. You see, they have given up on us. This is why we have to, as a people. Now, what do I propose? One is, I'm talking between two things I think we should do. We should either, A, stay away from the polls, period. Or B, go in the polls and write none of the above. All right? All right, then write none of the above. All right, on the ballot. And leave. And send out a message as a community that we are not going to be pimped anymore. All right? Because that is what is going on in these communities. And you got the interesting thing about all of this is that what happened to church and state? All right? Because how many white preachers do you know in Commu? None. Huh? All right? You don't know of any. Because the Constitution has separated church and state. What would Jesus be doing in the Roman Senate? All right? What would he be doing in the Roman Senate? You know, I know everybody would say, well, you know, advocating power. Well, you ain't advocating power, chump. All right, that's first of all, you ain't advocating power. Because all of these suspects are preachers. Even Ed Towns is a preacher. A lot of people didn't know that. All right? Carl McCall, all these, Andy Young, all these front row, all of these crooks are preachers. Yeah, Carl McCall a preacher. All right? That's what's happening in our community. All right? That's what happened in our community. So you got this whole circle of Negroes don't even supposed to be in politics in the first place. Because they're already in violation of the Constitution. All right? Most of them are. All right? And the young on down. All right? See, so this is what is happening. We got these preacher pimps, all right, who are operating like everybody else on behalf of white folks. All right? Now, I'm going to just show, I don't call no name now, I'll tell you something. No. Most of these Negroes who are associated with these white politicians are there not to give them advice, because ain't no white man on listen to what no Negro says. All right? So you need to ingratiate yourself by thinking that you got some deep secret, all right, that somebody wants to share with you. All right? All right? Because that is not happening. These Negroes, most of them preachers, are there to get sisters out of their congregation to turn over to white politicians.
There you go. There you go. Come on, tell it. Tell it.
I'm not telling you what I think, I'm telling you what I know. All right, I'll sit down. I tell everybody to sit down now. All right? All right? All right? All right? This is what is happening. This is what is happening. All right, in our community. I'm not going to name no name tonight. All right, because I may be invited back. I'm going to give everybody out the second time. All right? All right? I make that the second discussion. We'll talk about political whores the next time. All right? And political pimps and political prostitutes. All right? The next time out. All right? All right, but this is what is happening. And it happened in New York City. You got preachers in New York City who move themselves up by getting women in their congregation and supplying them to white politicians. All right, this whole thing is dirty and it's corrupt.
How do they do that?
How do they do that? Easy. How does a pimp turn a prostitute? These Negroes are pimps. That's what you got to understand. These Negroes are pimps. All the pimps that you see on the corner is now in the pulpit somewhere. That's why you don't see them in the corner no more. All right, they didn't go out of business. All right? They didn't go out of business. We are a community that is in deep trouble. All right? In every sense of the word. I was telling you the other day. All of these buildings that these Negroes are doing, Florence Place is doing nothing, but they can do it, getting the money out of the black community, getting into the white community. That's all Florence Place is doing.
That's all he's doing.
That's all. And every other Negro preacher doing the same thing. Buster's doing the same thing in Harlem. All right? And they're all owned by Alphonse D'Amato. Because Alphonse D'Amato has gotten his herd money and put it in the black churches, all right, and then bring his own construction companies in, his own lawyers in, his own accountants in, his own mortgage bankers in to develop. All they're doing is passing blood through the community. And we got a body with no circulation system at all. These Negroes are Draculas and vampires. This stuff is very clear if you start thinking about it. We are in real deep trouble. We're in real deep trouble. But our community would rather support them than support me. Yeah. All right? See, that's the whole bottom line. Floyd Blake had something in the paper this week, I think it was Friday. He said, I need $300,000 for my legal defense fund. Now, he was accused of robbing black people. They want black people to finance his legal defense. And they're going to do it. All right? I'm standing up for a 15-year-old girl right now. Get ready to go on trial, have no money, don't have no way of getting no money, fighting human rights and didn't have no money, no way of getting no money, and Negro would care less. That's right. Because we are fascinated with pimps and prostitutes. That's our fascination. That's exactly it. Negro getting on their knees. Well, you know, I know things are bad, but you got to have faith in God, and God will make a way. Well, how is God going to make a way, Tom, when you are kneeling down to some white Jesus who's supposed to be the Son of God? Why would God go against his Son for you? The Negro ain't even no logic. Oh, God is getting ready to make a way. And you believe God is white. Why is he going to get rid of his own people for you? And you sitting up there in Abyssinia with white Jesus. Under the guise, and this is bus argument. Remember, but why don't you get rid of those? Because it would cost us several $1,000. Look at the billions of dollars of damage that you're doing to human lives. Somebody will cost you several $1,000. What kind of damage every Sunday when children come in Abyssinia to see a white demon up there on the wall? Here's a convict that was out on what release? And you got him up on the wall.
Down home, teacher. Down home.
Well, I done run out of my time. Thank you very much.
Brothers and sisters, we can't complain. The African Echoes family would like to thank Brother Maddox for that inspiring speech tonight. And the African Echoes family would like to thank the brothers and sisters from the UAM to share this evening with us tonight. Thank you from the African Echoes family.
Let me ask everybody from the UAM to stand.
Would all the members from the UAM stand, please? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks. Appreciate that very much. Did I have time about question, right?
Let me explain to it.
Yeah, okay, let me just get some. Okay, we have some announcements within the Jersey area. On Tuesday night,
Drop the bomb.
Yeah, right. Yeah.